It has been 53 years since slavery ended, but racial prejudice remained. The North was in need of workers for job opportunities that opened up in the wake of World War I. Yet the South became a fortress, limiting long-distance travel for black people, making travel an extremely arduous task that required a large sum of money that black people couldn't obtain in the South. Some were up for the challenge, risking it all, leaving their families behind for the chances and opportunities that could be obtained in the North, while others stayed behind, hoping that they could make their way home in the South. One Southerner who was up to the task was Clyde Johnson, a 20-year-old black man who was born and raised on a small farm located just outside of St. Augustine, Florida. He had worked as a sharecropper in 1918.
I thought about leaving Florida for a year now, but every time, money had held me back. Not to mention that white people weren't fond of African Americans moving north. Florida, and the South as a whole, was not a safe place for me or my family to live. Lynching after lynching occurred in nearby towns, and I felt more pressure than ever. I'd overheard a group of boys talking about this big, bustling city in the North full of wonder and opportunities. The city's name was New York, and more specifically Harlem. Once I heard it, I knew that was where I had to be. So I went home, grabbed my guitar that my late grandpa had given to me, and taught me to play as a boy, and I was off onto the train station. As I'd entered the waiting room at the station, there was a kind old man who began to speak with me.
You look a bit young to be traveling by yourself. Where's your father?
He questioned as he glanced around curiously. Oh, I'm by myself. I hear talk of great opportunities up north in a town called Harlem. I stuttered, taken aback that he thought I was young.
Well, I would advise you to keep an eye out, Sonny. We're often overlooked by the station workers. Some of us have been here for days, just trying to get a ticket. The workers walk through here all the time, but do nothing to help us. A couple of weeks ago, a group of young white men came through here and broke all the stalls in the bathroom, and the staff have yet to even make an attempt to try and fix them.
He pointed out with a tone of irritation still lingering in his voice. That's terrible, I cried.
It's awful,
he continued.
The stench is almost unbearable. Whenever someone goes to the bathroom out of desperation, you can see it all, hear it all, and smell it all. I advise you to jump at any chance you can get to get out of here,
he warned. Yeah, I will. Thanks, I replied. Luckily, during the fourth day of waiting, I got a ticket. However, I could only make it to Savannah, Georgia. The only place you could go without being rejected, as all long-distance travel by train was almost entirely banned for the black people trying to leave the South. I sat at the front of the train, in the Jim Crow car right behind the locomotive, where mounds of ash and dust were thrown back into our car. I was sitting in the middle of a cabin right below the gas lamp and across from the coal stoves. Bored of the views of the wall in front of me, I started to talk to people sitting across from me. How about you two? Where are you headed?
We're heading towards the same place with everyone else in the cabin, Savannah. It's unfortunate that this train doesn't go much farther than Savannah. We have to find a new way to make our fares further. We'd like to make it to Harlem. Everything we've heard about it makes it seem like the perfect place for us to start a new, better life.
Hearing that wasn't great, but I guess I'd have to make do with the cards that I've been dealt. After making it to Savannah, I had to spend many months traveling trying to make it to Harlem. Most of my time was spent on foot, but luckily in Maryland, I was able to find a train that would take me the rest of the way to Harlem. While walking down the streets of Harlem, New York, I started to think back to those times 5 years ago when I was moving from Florida to Georgia, and I can't help but compare it to the past 3 years where I've been in Harlem. I'd go as far as to say that I lived in hell until I arrived in heaven. When walking down the streets, instead of quiet whispers and weary gazes, I hear an upbeat jazz swing and feel a sense of belonging, and most importantly, safety. With those feelings alone, I was happy even while in a rundown, overpopulated boarding house. And out of the corner of my eyes, I see my friend Dutch, who also lives in my tenant, trafficking the streets. Dutch!
Hey Clyde, well I thought I looked dressed up well in my police uniform, but it seems you got much more adequately dressed. What's the occasion?
Yeah, I'm hoping to get a new gig at the club that popped up a few days ago, the Cotton Club.
The one on 142nd Street and Lenox Avenue? That one looked fancy.
Once I get in, I'll officially be part of Fletcher Henderson's band, and then I'll finally have the money to get my very own house.
Haha, me too, buddy. Well, it seems I need to be on my way, so good luck.
He said as he walked away. It had been a few months since I was hired as a guitarist for Fletcher Henderson's orchestra, but my life is incomparable to my past. Something I never had in the South was pride, but now the music that breathes out my culture is being heard by all guests. Right now, I'm breathing out that pride, playing some of the best music to meet these white guests' ears. Between sets, the Cotton Club chorus girls would perform, stealing all the audience's attention. One notable chorus girl is Josephine Baker, a young chorus line dancer at the Cotton Club. I heard she joined the chorus line of the touring show Shuffle Along in Boston and came here to the Cotton Club from popular demand thanks to her improvising comic style, which garnered her much fame. Though I didn't know much about the dancing industry, everyone knows Baker. While playing with my band is great, there are still downsides to working at this establishment. There's always the backdrop right behind us on stage, depicting cotton trees and plantation quarters, and the women must wear their costumes that imitate old slave attire. Despite these racial undertones, my career as a guitarist continued to grow in his band, and the Cotton Club's popularity never failed to flourish. While Henderson's orchestra gained popularity, the audience was fond of my playing on the guitar. My role in the band became more and more vital to our success, and eventually Henderson suggested that I start performing a solo act. Just a few years ago, I never would have believed that someone like me who left the South with nothing but pockets lined with dust and fresh hope could ever have such an opportunity as this. But Harlem is a place where everything is different. It takes ambition buried deep inside of you and brings it to life. The music I play isn't just some noise that sounds nice. Now, it's a voice that people want to hear, and so I became a one-man show. My success is something unimaginable, and I owe it all to Harlem. Harlem, the place where dreams come true. Harlem, the place where we finally feel safe. Harlem, the place where I was finally accepted as a human. In these streets, I could go up and down all day without a single scornful glance. Here, I could get any job I want. If I could describe Harlem in just one word, it would be home.